what we realized is, why not create all that sound system from one singular source through vibration, where we can now actually turn anything in your environment into a sound system, all by vibrating it. So now, for example, this table becomes a sound system acoustically, because anything that vibrates can emit, sound. At the same time, since we're vibrating it and controlling how that vibration works, if you put your hand on it, then on top of that, you can now actually feel every single frequency directly through your body.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kids in the Room podcast. Kids in the Room podcast.
That's right. That's right.
Brought to you by Move Faces TV.
All right. Woo! All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Kids in the Room podcast. Today, we've got Ethan and we've got Val on the podcast today. Ethan and Val, man, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being out here in the Bay, and I'm very happy to be on the show.
Yeah, likewise, man. So how was the drive over here?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, we're from LA, right? So we can handle traffic. We don't got bridges though. So that's the thing, that if an accident happens, we all just drive over the mountain and get out of it, right? I've never experienced someone flipping over the freeway and then everyone just stops on a bridge. Mm-hmm. That's a thing.
Wait, what do you mean by stopping on the bridge?
There was a car accident on the bridge and it stopped every single car because they had to get all the fire trucks and everybody across. So that it was another 30 minutes. I would argue that in LA you do get that because there's some freeways you don't have really a choice to get some places. But in the Bay, once you're on a bridge, you can't get off. I mean, you can't turn around. So one choice.
In LA, sometimes depending on what car you have, the road is optional.
Sure. Where you guys stand in LA?
We live in Riverside and Chino, so we're kind of more on the east side of outskirts in Riverside County area. But he was in Chatsworth before, working as an audio engineer, and some of our teams in Pasadena, but we're more kind of on the east side of LA.
Yeah.
Nice. So tell us about your company and what you guys got going on, Special Technology. What's going on with this?
Yeah, take it away, Ethan.
So the reason we're in Riverside is because this is actually, I guess, technically a student startup from the research I was doing over at UC Riverside. We both went to UC Riverside, and most of our team comes from UC Riverside as well. And Edge Sound Research is overarchingly about how we understand signal to come across. And that sounds very vague, and it's hard to pin down because it's a really specific topic. But essentially, we're trying to see what's the best way to get an idea across to somebody else, right? If you have a thought or an idea, a song or a movie idea or something, right? We're trying to express some sort of emotion. There are many ways to be able to get that across, and I'm interested in seeing what the fuck I can do to hack your body to have the idea go straight to you. Kind of like Neuralink level stuff, but we won't invade your brain just yet.
Yeah, don't do that.
But that kind of thing where it's there's better ways than what we have right now to get some information or a medium across to you. And that's the real technical way. That's why I'm
all right, so
my PhD research.
Let me tell on the other side of why we're co-founders, because that's why he's the PhD researcher. And on my end, what we're really doing right now is we're focusing on the world of audio, aside from everything this guy just said. But specifically in the world of audio, what we're trying to look at is how do you combine physical audio and acoustic audio. So acoustic audio is what we kind of know today, right? How do you hear sound from speakers? And physical audio is how you experience that and how you feel that, right? People know haptics and basics on that area. But what we realize is, why not create all that sound system from one singular source through vibration, where we can now actually turn anything in your environment into a sound system, all by vibrating it. So now, for example, this table becomes a sound system acoustically, because anything that vibrates can emit, sound. At the same time, since we're vibrating it and controlling how that vibration works, if you put your hand on it, then on top of that, you can now actually feel every single frequency directly through your body. So that's what he meant by getting that idea directly to that human the best way possible.
Yeah. That's the first step.
Yeah. So, I mean, so basically what you guys are doing is you're turning any type of physical thing, whether it's a table, whether it's a cup, anything you could turn to a speaker.
And it all have the exact, and the crazy thing that we're doing is that it's anything will then have the same frequency or pretty damn close to be the same frequency response. But I think has been the thing that's been the hardest so far. We're in a studio, right? You have studio monitors to be able to monitor what's happening. But what if that's not actually what's happening? What if it sounds different because of the way you're monitoring, or if it sounds different because of your room? Or it sounds different because you got reflection, because it's reflecting off the table. What if it sounds different on somebody else's speakers because they don't have the same speakers you do? What if it sounds different in somebody else's room, same speakers, but different room? There's all these variables that then go into mudding up what's actually coming through. So how does any one person know what the true signal is? Hence, if there's a way that we could listen to whatever it is, there's things called, room correction stuff where you can kind of tune your speakers to be able to at least produce the same thing that we know somebody else is producing. And we want to see if we can take that one step further and putting that into tuning matter of all sorts. So that way, table, cup, chair, small implant in your head, or, a large room, and it'll all be the same frequency response. You get the same amount of information that comes across.
Wow. So, yeah. I mean, this is good. This is good stuff. Yeah, that's crazy. So basically, how did you guys start this? Like you guys were building something. Like, I mean, well, you have something now that's a buildable product. But how did you kind of like start this? Like, can you walk us back?
I'm start from his childhood.
I got you. Yeah. So
start from the childhood.
All started when I was born. Actually, it did. I was born with a lot of defects, and it led me to be super hard of hearing when I was a kid. Yeah, and so I wasn't able to like speak. I didn't understand speech and a lot of other stimuli that people normally have growing up, and so I had to do a lot of speech therapy, a lot of hearing impairment therapy, where they give me different tips and tricks on how to understand people talking. And so I learned how to read lips at a really young age. I learned how to read really young because I could only read captions. I didn't really have a sense of what was happening in the TV or whatever.
Right.
And so then as I kept practicing, I got better and better at trying to basically feel my way around the world as one of the compensatory methods. And then, I used to get in a lot of trouble at school because, my teachers would say, hey, do this. I'm like, do what? And then I do something completely different. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I was doing what I thought you said. And they're like, I didn't say that.
Was that like a hint of ADD or like, what's that?
Oh, yeah. So I also have Tourette syndrome. And so it means I twitch and I do a bunch of other stuff. And so then if they tell me, and I can't hear them, and then I end up doing something else, also because of my Tourette's, where like I'll have to like turn around or do something, and I won't hear them tell me to stop or to do something else. I was a fun child to have at school.
Wait, so you don't have Tourette's anymore?
I do, yeah. So I'm still hard of hearing, and I still have Tourette syndrome.
You learn how to control both, and compensate as much as possible. And the part it's so fascinating about. I mean, for a whole year, I didn't even know this guy was hard of hearing because he's so good at how he's able to perceive other senses, how he reads lips, how he feels vibrational detection. But the essence of why we even got started in this essence is he's also an audio engineer. I mean, guy who's hard of hearing decides to become an audio engineer. Yeah, but how did you do that?
My doctors were like, don't go into music. And I was like, sure. So I went into music. And the first thing I realized, which they're right, they're like, you're not going to be able to hear it or like not hear it well. So why the hell would you go into that? But there is something about the vibration of like a subwoofer and like the vibration of instruments and stuff. Like, you're a musician, you understand. There's some sort of resonance and connection to that kind of thing that goes beyond just hearing it. So and a lot of for hard of hearing people go into or not go into, but at least have a relationship with sound and music. And there's a very popular percussionist, Evelyn Glennie, who is a profoundly deaf percussionist. She lost her hearing, and she walks on stage barefoot on the wooden stage, and she plays and can hear and keep time just through vibrations in the ground. So there's a whole kind of history and context with people, who don't have hearing, using other methods of being able of their body to be able to kind of biohack themselves into understanding what's going on.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, I guess because like when your other senses are not as strong, the other ones begin to be like more heightened, if you will.
100%. For example, if you ever plug your ears and go in, or plug your ears, or if you're in the water, you're actually not hearing with your ears because it's shut it off. So that way it doesn't, leak water into your, you don't drown. So your body shuts it off, and then you're actually using your skin as bone conduction to actually hear what's going on in the water. And also, if you plug your ears, you can't rely on your ears. So you're over about like 3 minutes, you'll start to use the rest of your skin as the next main method of conducting vibration to your brain.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And so that's actually the way I hacked my way going through the music industry a little bit. It was I'd come in to record vocals for some reason, and I'd be like, all right, well, I don't know this room, I don't know these monitors, I don't know the speakers, so I just went and like touched the speakers, and kind of having at least a good enough of an idea from the visual monitors. The touch and the meters is all I needed to be able to get a good mix within 30 minutes of recording it. And so then they started bringing me back of like, oh, if you can do this in 30 minutes, can you do these 3 other songs? Can you do 4 songs in 2 hours? And I was like, sure, I guess so. And that was kind of became my hack. I was called in for drums and bass, obviously, but then, started being able to do vocals. And it was like, how are you able to adjust to the room so quickly? And how can you, get these mixes out so quickly? It's kind of weird. And I was like, I'm weird.
So you were like in a band earlier or something like this, or?
A band?
Yeah, like a band, right? Like
you
said, like you were playing music.
Yeah. So I actually didn't start music until pretty late, like high school. For most people in music and as a career, and it was hard because I trying to pick up other instruments like violin and stuff, and I was like, I think that's the right note. No, it was not the right note, and so it was a while till I kind of figured out. Okay, I have to stick with percussion, because everything else is not going to work. And I could feel percussion easily. And so all the waves can hit my body a lot easier. It's an easier thing to pick up. And so, just dove in and I started from nothing and kind of picked my way back up a little bit. And I always had like a sense of rhythm, because I think that's the way my body is always associated with the world. And then that really gave, and not to say like I had perfect rhythm or anything like that. I have terrible rhythm innately, but I can grab onto somebody else's like vibrations and then be able to relate to it. So as I was like playing in the orchestra and timpani and stuff, I'd be able to to feel that my timpani was out of tune, and then be able to like tune it up without having to listen to it or anything like that. The traditional way is you tap the thing so you have vibration, you listen to it, and you make your judgment. But that don't work with me. So I would hit it, and as I was playing it, be like, and so then one of my friends in high school realized that I could do that, and then wrote me a timpani solo. Have you ever heard of timpani solo?
No.
That's right, you haven't, because you don't exist. But homeboy wrote in the middle of this piece, this big build up to a timpani solo, and then he had me changing notes and stuff on the fly, spinning around, because I could do this thing where as I hit it, I can tune into whatever the other thing was. Man. It was the most flamboyant percussion thing you'll ever see.
I mean, at least you made it work. So Val, like, how did you get into all this? Like, walk us through. Yeah.
So, I mean, my background has nothing to do with audio. And that's actually why we're kind of perfectly co-founders. Yes. My background's always been on like pushing the boundaries of experiences and researching emerging technologies. So my background's in information systems and marketing strategy and market research. And specifically in the case of how we kind of met, we actually were working with bands and actually helping them kind of launch pad into the music industry, helping them get signed on by labels. Mm-hmm. Throughout that process, Ethan comes to me, he's like, hey, by the way, you could feel sound. I'm like, what do you mean you can feel sound? That makes no sense to me. And he's like, trust me, you can feel sound. It's my research. I just need your help for like a month max.
I think it's like 2 weeks or something.
2 weeks to a month. He's like, all I need out of that is just to do a little bit of research to understand if there's any market value for feeling sound. I was like, I mean, I got to try this first before I'm going to do any research with you and dedicate a month of my time. Go over to the studio. He sets up like a really janky demo, like definitely should have signed a waiver. It looked like an electric chair, bunch of wires and cables everywhere. I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm about to experience. Sat down, played it. And first thing out of my mouth was just, holy shit. Like, this is something different, and you are thinking way too small. Because he was just thinking about recording studios and how this could be used there, because obviously that's his world. But I was like, man, you're thinking on the creation side. The consumption side is where the value comes from, because now, as an artist, if you create something within like a video game, how you perceive that video game changes. Watching a sport, that changes. Watching a movie, that changes. All these markets that are built based off an experience and the perception of that experience gets redefined. It gets rewritten with this technology, and that's what got me attracted to helping build this out. 3 years later, we're now.
It's been a long month, is what you're saying.
Very, very long month.
Yeah, I'm kind of the asshole.
It's a good way. It's okay. I'll accept it. It's been a good journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool though. So you just you got to this point where you start testing out the basic prototype, and you got him in basically to help you out to kind of like build the software part of it, or like what was it?
No, that was the prototype.
No.
We had nothing beforehand. I was just like, hey, based on my research, this should be possible. I wanted money to try it.
It was purely a prototype. So that point in time, pretty much what I wanted out of Ethan was just to understand where is he going with this, like what is the idea here. That we put together pretty quickly, but the part for me was, okay, in order for this to happen, what team do we need? What resource do we need? What investors do we need? Where are we going with this in the market? What do we have to do? Because there's one thing to have a technology, there's another thing to have a product. A lot of companies have great technology, it doesn't matter. A market does not buy technology. They buy a product or service, right? But you got to take that technology and then transcribe it into something. Otherwise, it has zero value. That's why a lot of times great researchers at universities might invent something, but it stays at the university and it's buried under. And that was the one thing that luckily us thinking on two different heads, the beauty of it.
Saved.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that. It's came out of his mouth, but at the same time, I was also on my end. I was always looking for that thing that could potentially impact millions of people and potentially change the world. And when he introduced that, I was like, man, I've been looking for this for the last 6 years and been building ventures and trying different things, but he's a different side of the coin.
He's also an avid gamer, and that was something I had never really been too into video games since after the PlayStation 1. So, that was my only context of video games. And so the fact that, Skyrim existed, like blew my brains out for like 2 solid months. And so
by the way, you played like 3 years after it came out. It's not like you played on the release.
Sorry. Skyrim in 2016. Anyway, but yeah, that was like my last. And so I kind of like shelved, part of Tourette's too, I get into these habits. And so I was like, okay, I got to shelve video games. But then he came and said, dude, this would be incredible for video games. And I was like, thinking like, how Spiral the Dragon can be better with, and then it turns out there's other video games that are like really great and really realistic. And yeah, that's fucking nuts. And so he showed me all this stuff. And he also is fucking amazing at like Halo and Call of Duty. And it's like unfair because with this, he can predict what person has what gun where in the map before they touch the ground. And so then he can shoot them before they land because they're shooting at him coming down, and he can tell they have an assault rifle. They're coming from the front right of the map, and they're going to be landing at XYZ spot because of the depth perception that you can get with the technology. He can tell how far away they're coming from. And I was like, that's not normal. That's got to be.
Wait, who could do that?
Homeboy here.
Played a lot of Call of Duty, but I think because the biggest thing when it comes to video games, right, is like after you learn map knowledge, the secondary thing is your reaction time and everything that can give you a sensory capability. That's why people want high refresh rates on their laptops and computers, right? Like all these things that give you that subtle edge of being able to turn around somebody and beat him at something, but. The part that's insane is that you can feel faster than you can hear, and also your ears start compressing. So if there's a lot of things happening in a game at the same time, like in Call of Duty, there's a lot of shooting happening at the same time, you can't understand where that's happening because it's just compressing in your ear, just a bunch of pop, 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 pop sounds.
And the military looked into that as well, and that's a huge problem that's happening with all the information they're trying to give to soldiers on the ground. Is they have information overload because they're trying to put everything to the eyes, everything to the ears. And so they've been looking for a while now about how to separate signals so that way certain parts of it can go to critical areas that can be perceived or can be recoded to learn different types of reaction stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff, but video games. Fun.
Wait, what? What is the military doing again? Sorry.
The military's not doing this. They're looking into this. The biggest thing with the military, similar to video games, right? Individual can have sensory overload if too much sensory information is going towards one sense, right? So if they're, in the case of like Call of Duty and in the military, right? Gunshot, a lot of gunfire, very loud. You can't really tell what's going on, and a commander cannot give you instructions, or you cannot actually work together as a unit to handle that situation. Well, if some of that information is tactile and you feel that on your body, and you can separate that away from what you're hearing, you can understand those cues as separate cues from what you're hearing, so you can still understand what your commander is telling you while you're in the middle of gunfire, for example.
That's where bone conduction headphones actually came from, was one of those efforts to try to solve that problem.
What do you mean, like Jabra or something like that? Where it was like
Actually, the technology was first looked at to try to see if you could communicate through the bones and then still have hearing protection, but still be able to hear what's going on around. Because I think the hearing protection, when there's too much pressure, it'll close the little hole in the ear protection thing, and so that way, whenever there's a gunfire, it'll. But then at the same time, then everything gets quiet. And so then basically every bit of gunfire mutes the world for you for that little duration. So there's a lot of gunfire, then there's no way to be able to get information in. So then there has to be a separate way to be able to get communication to somebody else. And I think race car drivers also did something like that for a hot minute. Something like that.
Yeah, I got to try it. I think it was pretty cool. I think the thing is like, I don't know, like how like when I'm looking at products like that, I'm thinking of to scale, and also like how you're thinking Val, like to like a business, like if you're bringing, I mean, if you can make anything into an actual sound system that feels realistic, like for example, you guys were talking about the couch and et cetera, and you could literally make my couch into a fucking literally like a speaker, right? So it's like, to me, that's just pretty bananas, like to even think about doing that. And I'm all about decluttering. I like to declutter things every once in a while. I try to live lean, so when I start seeing a bunch of clutter, I start throwing a bunch of things away. I just slowly just have this like cleansing period where I say, oh, I don't need this, don't use this, gotta throw things away, and I always want to be lean and efficient.
Because I noticed you didn't have the rear channels of your surround sound system. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's right. I was like, this is really clean. There's no wire. And I don't think you have the rear. Yeah, and so I was like, yeah, exactly. And I think that's a new trend of stuff. You know, people also move pretty frequently. They don't want to have to reset up and then not set up. What if then something new comes out? Then you have to unrig your whole setup and So
I think like basically like, yeah, totally. The more leaner you can make something, the more portable, the more unseen you can do it. This is where I see like what's really cool about the technology. If I can have it really lean and I could turn anything to a speaker and it's easy to hide, it's easy to not be noticed.
Right.
You know, if it's something I can just literally tap on the bottom of my couch and it's not visible to anyone and less wires.
And don't think about it.
Exactly. So this is, don't think about it. And nobody sees it. And they're like, hey, what's going on in here? Like the whole minimalist type of lifestyle that you can just look around the room and there's just like a fucking like picture on the wall, but then it's just like
but
there's
that
a sound.
Turns your wall into like the dopest sound system you've had. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, as you guys kind of see, like even here, like there's a lot of wires, a lot of shit that's going into just even setting this up, and like I think that's one of the most imperative things. Things I hate is like I don't like feeling like there's a bunch of shit around me, like a bunch of things, a bunch of I guess you'd say a bunch of clutter, if you will. I like having things like where it's not easily seen, the less stuff, easy to be able to transport. And if you think about something like what you guys are doing with your sound system, you can pretty much take that anywhere. So if you want to have that same type of like surround sound system and you want to move to Portugal, you want to move to Spain, but you don't want to have to pick up this big old system and carry these speakers with you, but you still want that vibe.
It's mostly air. These boxes of speakers are mostly air because you have to basically have enough room to have the air vibrate because you're trying to get this big wavelength to then be pushed out to this is the kind of the basis of the research, right? There's got to be a better way to deliver a wavelength into the body because that's what you're going for. You're trying to get that immersive factor into your body. It's not you're trying to shoot into the air. It's like showering by shooting a bunch of mist into the air and then trying to run through it. It's like there's a better way to get moisture onto your body. You could spray yourself with a freaking spray bottle or with a garden hose or something like that.
Your analogies are always fantastic, man. They make absolutely no sense, but they make a lot of sense, man.
There's a better way to be more direct with it. And so that's the same thing. We're kind of shooting sound waves out into the air and hoping our ears pick it up because our ears are sensitive for that. But if you just shoot the sound wave directly into your body, you can get that impact that you're looking for. Yeah.
I get it. So like another thing is too, like when I start thinking about sound, I also start thinking about, history. I start thinking about the ancient pyramids, where people say that they believe that the pyramids were, created by using sound, by at least moving like the big stones. These are a lot of the newer theories that they say that people in ancient times were using sound to do all types of things that we might see now that was done historically. Like how did you move these 700-ton fucking stones, and cut them and things like that. Like there's a bunch of like hypotheses on like how that was actually done. So I just wonder, like when you're studying sound, like have you noticed anything significant that you can do with sound besides, because it's just a pretty cool technology that you did. So it's like, what else did you play with? And
you ready? You want to open Pandora's box?
You ready like Freddy?
Okay. So sound is, when you break it down, right, it's basically the transference of energy between what are called phonons, right? The photon for light, basically phonons is like the smallest particle of sound. And that's basically what's happening when you're hearing something. This is the particles go through. But essentially, one step below that is the actual vibration, which is the transfer of energy between each of those. And vibrations, of course, we know is everything from audible all the way up into stuff that's, visible light, and all the way up into radio frequency, and then beyond to microwave and whatever, right? This whole kind of vibration thing. The vibrations we see in the universe are also based off of energy that has been emitted hundreds of billions of years ago from whatever event that happened all the way over there, that we're getting the aftermath of all of those vibrations. So we're just detecting something that's already happened. It's basically built-in history, right? So when we say that we're looking at sound, I think a better way, and I began my dissertation like this as well. We're actually studying the effect on energy on matter, right? And so when you break it down to that level, beyond the level of phonon or whatever, you're basically asking, how can I manipulate the world around me by using energy? And then that opens up a whole world that's not just sound, but it's also, if I can control vibration, I can control literally any sort of transference of energy, of medium, of light, of sound, of radio frequency waves, of your perception of the world. Your perception of the world is literally your brain trying to make sense of a series of vibrations that are detectable by different organs on your body. Lower frequency vibrations by your skin and your hair as an extension of your skin. Middle frequencies that are by your ear, which is 3 magnitudes, super high end, which is from your eyes, and then also smells are basically just the collections of concentrated vibrations that have pushed molecules together in a certain way that have then coalesced to a point where then you can detect them with your nose. And it's not even including stuff that's like invisible from radiation and all this other stuff that could be stuff that we haven't even discovered yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. So that's pretty much, you're basically just breaking down how many different ways you've discovered that we know of that we can leverage sound.
It was so overwhelming. I think I took a solid like 2 to 3 weeks just like recovering from the realization that going so far into this, it's quite possible that you could learn enough about how to manipulate someone's experience and how like basically hijack the way that you're perceiving the world to the point where I can almost manipulate you into believing a world that is not the reality world, but whatever I'm manipulating you to believe. Almost like Matrix style.
Yeah, the whole Matrix theory stuff, we went through a whole wormhole of ethics and like, what are we building out and is this leading through to those things? Because the reality is, controlling vibration leads to the control of a reality. Yeah. The more you can control vibration, that controls all your senses. If I control your senses, I control how you perceive that reality.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? Like you can manipulate somebody through sound, and what ways may that be when you're saying that? Like, if so,
sound, through vibration, or, and then through an extension of vibrations, the light and smell and everything else that impacts your brain, right? Everything that your brain can pick up can be manipulated if you can learn how to synchronize and affect the wavelength of that vibration. So we're just starting with sound because that's probably like the easiest thing. It also has the widest magnitude of most of these. So you get the most flexibility, right? You can be up in the high registers and manipulate kind of this piercing kind of sound, or down the low registers and down to infrasonic, like, how elephants can communicate that way, right? There's actually a successful poaching sting where people from National Geographic were able to intercept poachers' signals of elephants. So elephants communicate infrasound, and poachers will listen to the infrasound and be able to determine where the elephants are going and be able to jump in and be able to poach them. And so then we figured out, or the National Geographic team figured out how to inverse those signals and then confuse and basically scramble that code for the poachers. So the poachers didn't know where they were going to be at and basically save the elephants. So that's one example of being able to manipulate somebody's perception of things in order to redirect them or to change their behavior. And so then if you move up to subsonic frequencies, you can get to this point where your body is, full of juices, and we can start manipulating the juices in your body so much to the point make you really uncomfortable because we're targeting certain, harmonics inside of your body to like basically excite that part of your body to the point where you have to move, right? Which is also what LRAD is based off of, the long range acoustic devices that are used sometimes by police to be able to scatter people. They do a higher range frequency version of that gets shot to your ears, and it's so uncomfortable that you then have to move. And then even higher than that, there's a microwave version of it that does the same thing. It's not just so loud or not so uncomfortable physically, but it actually then starts baking your water on the inside, not through touch, but then like through the air.
Bake you? Like cooking? Like fucking like stovetop stuffing? Like what do you mean?
Straight throwing you in a microwave.
Yep, but outside.
Wow, that's crazy. Those are bad weapons.
Yeah, so, and that's what I call them. I was
that's
like, dude,
ethics.
We might be making something that if someone's like, yeah, this is so cool for music, it's so cool for video games, I want to touch it and sit here all the whole time. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're with where we can get with just our crude rudimentary technology, we can get to a point where we're able to deliver a reality so appealing to somebody that they may not want to leave that reality, or they may reject the current reality as the reality that they choose to live in because their created reality is a better one, and then also the weaponization of that type of thing of other people, bad actors using it to manipulate somebody and suggesting that a certain event in your life may have happened in a way that you didn't think it did, and so therefore you should do this other action that then benefits me. That could be something that if left unchecked might be ripe for abuse in the future. So we're at least cognizant that is a possibility. Again, we're not even anywhere near this. It's something that's going to be, it requires mass adoption, and then also
insane amount of R&D.
and also a lot of R&D to make it so seamless to the point that people don't even realize it's happening. But, you know, if left unchecked, then these types of thoughts can, you know, possibly happen, especially if it's a larger company that may not have the same kind of regard for humanity and the survival of people and making sure people have their own free will and decisions and not getting targeted advertisements.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being done. I mean, wait till social media companies get a hold of it. We definitely manipulate you then. You know, we can do it through sound design. You know, we could literally, you get like a notification and that sound that comes to the notification. If there's a sound that can get you more, push you more dopamines or some type of addiction. So we can figure out what frequency that roams on and just go whatever that ding, whatever that noise is.
And bring it down a little bit so it's ding.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Is that what it is?
Good old dark patterns.
Why do I feel so good when I get there? But exactly, the same type of shit that social media people exploited to be able to get us to keep scrolling is the same type of shit that you could use to be able to keep people locked in. So that's exactly the type of thing that we're cognizant about being exploited.
Right. And I'm a guy, so I'm definitely gonna understand this. And gamers, you know, you guys know this, gamers, somewhere in the midst of that, you know, when you start talking about people who are gonna misuse this technology, as soon as I start thinking about those, typically when you think about that, you think about people who are doing stuff that are, I don't want to say it's dark, but you think about mischievous things, right? It's just not war. There's also love, sex, and things like that are involved. So when we start talking about people, you know, doing games, you know, there's also the porn aspect into there as well. So I can see people using these things. You know, I mean, I think Chatsworth would be using this very soon.
That was the number one thing our school suggested it might be a possible thing to look into, and you know, there's a lot of research in it as well. You know.
No, I mean, I
research topic.
No, I mean, I could definitely, I could like see like people like in the porn industry definitely leveraging this. I mean, they leverage like, what is it, the Metaverse and things like that, and they also leveraged what is it, what is it, like the 3D porn and shit like that, the VR porn, etc. So they leverage that. So it's like, they would definitely leverage this in the sound because you could use that to leverage the effect. And if you're saying that it could leverage certain hormones or behaviors, you know, this could be used, it could be powerful for a channel or a company.
Is the right word. Yeah, exactly. And that's why these are the things that have to be cognizant of, you know, it's if one of these technologies takes off, then
I don't know if that you need to be I mean, they might enjoy this sound thing, you know, this might be the greatest thing since Einstein.
Possibly. You know, we'll have to let them, you know, pick it up and start doing some experimenting on that side of it, you know?
Yeah, you start seeing guys walking down the street with headphones on. They're like, what's going on with that guy?
I'm sure there's a way, I mean, on the scientific end, right? There's a way to be able to harmonically trigger events that happen in the body.
Yeah.
The other solution, right? The other thing we know, brown note.
Yeah.
That's another triggering event.
And not just even like, you know, men too as well, women too. You know, you start seeing, she's walking around. You know, you're like, what's going on with her? She's not riding a horse. What's going on here?
She's listening to some trap music.
She's listening to Ed sound.
Hey, that's right.
It's technology. Yeah,
this is the experience, you know?
No, but I definitely, on a serious point, I definitely do see it as being something really cool. I think that's just like really cool about like how you can make anything an actual, I don't know, should I say speaker? Is speaker the right word, or sound device?
The best way we kind of put it in perception for people is, we turn anything in the environment into a speaker because you have to define what is a speaker, right? So like the biggest thing whenever we show this to people is like, there is no speaker, but the environment now has become the speaker, because what really is a speaker? Well, speaker is a mechanism that is now transferring that audio signal
into vibrations in the air.
Into the vibration in the air, and that's what your traditional speaker coil and speaker system is. Well, I mean, if we're vibrating this table, we are still doing that in essence, but there's no speaker that is doing that work. The table has now become that speaker.
Right, because it's vibrating to the point where it's exciting the phonons in the air, just like a speaker would then excite the phonons in the air to shoot towards you. And then, of course, the box is designed such capacity to resonate with those, and so it, you know, emits from the sides as well. But this table would do the same thing. It would vibrate so fast that the phonons would be excited through the air. So even though it's not shooting it like a speaker would, it would still emit sound. And so that's the basics of a technology called distributed mode loudspeakers used to be based off of, or are based off of, and they're DMLs, and they work on the same properties, usually with much smaller, lighter pieces of material that you hang, and they're very delicate, so they're not really widely used, but it's the same type of property where you shake something so fast that it can emit sound.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. So what do you guys see next for this type of technology? Like, where do you see it leveraged? Like, is there certain partners and business people? Because you guys flew out here, right? From LA, right? Or
Yeah, from LA.
Yeah.
all the way to LA, and doing tech in LA. yeah, that's even
It's more chill, I think.
It's different. I mean, LA is growing into the consumer hub of technology. I mean, there's like Snapchats and your social media companies and your dating apps. A lot of them are being built now in LA market. But as for kind of hardware technologies and what we're building out, not so much. Obviously, there's a lot more out here in the Bay Area. But I mean, yeah, as for right now, our main central focus is really kind of building partnerships on the venue side. So we already did a successful deployment with the Minnesota Twins in Major League Baseball, where we deployed our technology within a lounge area that we put it was a mobile lounge they could put in different areas. But the cool part is we took the feed from the game itself. So the broadcast feed they already have shotgun mics. They're already at home plate targeting the batter and the catcher. And what we did is we took that feed, plugged it directly into our benches, and you could be all the way in the outfield and you felt the back crack, you felt the pop of the mitt. You can tell if it was a curveball, a fastball based off how it popped the mitt, like the frequency response out of that. And we added a little bit more emphasis into it. So where you're sitting in the benches, you get that full dynamic immersion, feeling like you're actually at home plate with the players. And that was awesome because they got a feature on national television with Fox Sports. So that kind of showed the traction on the sports side. We didn't really expect this technology to pull that hard on sports and specifically fan engagement. But we now started a conversation with multiple different leagues, multiple different teams around how do we change that perception within the venue, whether it be all the way in the nosebleed seats that are kind of left alone and that don't really have that great experience. You're so disconnected from the game, or even within the suites themselves because they're kind of closed out. You're not getting the same experience. But how do we dynamically make it where the venue, there's no such thing as a bad seat in the house? Every single seat is the best seat in the house and can make it feel like you're actually on the field with the players to change that perspective of the game. So that's kind of our central focus now for this year, but also looking at things like hospitality and recording studios that are still part of our kind of mix, like bars and clubs, obviously, and how to deploy this. But what we care about right now in the short change is getting this into places where people naturally go to experience things so that you get an understanding and a reference point of what this technology can do. From there, we're then building out consumer products and looking at partnerships on the consumer side and how to distribute that out. But what we realize is that if we go straight to consumers and give it to you today, us talking about it, we sound like we're insane. So like us talking about turning anything in sound system.
To be fair, even
hard.
if somebody does watch it, they probably still sound insane.
Oh yeah, 100%. But you got to be crazy enough to make this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's what I kind of realized is that the venue side makes so much sense in the short change. But then expanding off there, what we're looking at is how do we drive this into automotive? How do we drive this into your home environments? How do we drive in the gaming industry? All that across, we're looking at strategic partners there, and we're having a lot of meetings. But that's kind of our long tail over the next 3 years. Focus right now is the venue side.
Yeah, and I think that even the craziest thing that CES showed us was it's not a question of like how do we drive it in. It's like people want it, and so it's like how do we package it for you is the only question that we have to figure out now. And thankfully that's just a resource question, not like a technology question. Technology is so ubiquitous that it can be applied to everything. The question is just like, great, how can we get it so that way it fits within your normative system kind of thing, which is crazy because remember I was thinking just for recording studios and so that's all I thought this was going to be, and then every single company out of the woodwork is then trying to pull it in. So
yeah, I can see it, man, like a edge technology, turn your environment to sound.
Yeah.
Slogan right there. You guys can keep that. You guys can keep that right there. I'm good with doing that though. Like that. But yeah.
And I think the cool thing, and so yeah, I think that's going to be an epic go-to-market style for the embodiment that it is today, and I think I'm so excited for what the future is going to bring it as well, because like we were mentioning, right, this is just kind of like scratching the very proverbial surface of what the fact that we can do now that we have an understanding of it and our first deployment of it. Now we can start looking at branching out all the different ways that we can start engaging with you, the person, the end user, and how we can take the sport experience, the music experience, the movie experience, and start leveraging it in certain ways. So now we're keeping you in mind and keeping your body in mind as you're experiencing it. So like, for example, have you seen Avatar 2, the new one?
I haven't seen it just yet. I will see it. I will see it. Okay. I love, yeah. I'll check it out.
IMAX?
James Cameron.
IMAX
I'll check it out.
James Cameron. Shout out. But what's it called? See it in IMAX in 3D. And it's amazing and it's immersive until they shoot stuff at you. And then at that point, it's the first time that I've ever like broken the illusion from something, because we know what to expect. We know what it means to have something to go straight to your body. So I think I was expecting it at that point for this arrow. I'm not breaking anything for you, but basically they shoot an arrow at the screen and like, look, 3D, right? And I was like, oh, it's so cool. And it went like, I saw the arrow come at me, but then I heard the arrow go, shoo. And I was like, what? Wait, hold on a second. My wife and I were there and she was like, what just happened? And we're like, that was the arrow. That was so cool, right? She was like, yeah, but I've tried your thing and they really need it in this thing because it completely broke the experience of having it being like shot at me. And I was like, first of all, thank you, wife, for listening to me and trying out my technology. So love you. And then second of all, yeah, 100%. That's the whole thing. It's not, there's nothing that it sits in the seat or whatever to be able to engage you at the time you need to be engaged, right? There's a bomb that happens, it throws it at the screen or whatever, and poof, it explodes in you. You don't know. It's going to sound like it's coming from outside. It's going to feel like it's coming from outside. It's loud, but it's not going to be immersive.
Yeah, I'm really into like the whole like sound and giving that experience and making it feel very realistic. As if you did see, my TV is a projector and it's a short throw projector.
Yeah,
and I'm 4 years ahead of everybody. You know, I've had short throw 150 inches on the wall before America's even had it. So it's just like, so for me, it's all about the visual clarity, how and how lifelike does the image look?
Yep. Yeah.
How lifelike and does the sound sound like? So for me, I see like the technology that you have. I do think it would be amazing to have that technology. And when I think of it from a brand side, I start thinking about Dolby Digital, like powered by Dolby Digital. I can see things like Edge Sound, as being like the actual supporting to as a software, as a technology, like Bill Gates basically did to leverage, Microsoft, leveraging that software or that technology into different brands to let them know that they have edge technology.
Right. Yep. And we don't want to be somebody who makes everything. We're all graduate students and we're all comfortable being in research and figuring out the problem, and that's a comfortable space for us to be. And if other people want to come through,
let's put it this way: this is the Balance Act. You can't keep building unless there's money coming in. So like when it comes to that, I mean the main focus for us is what we realize is that you can't create an adoption of a new technology across the board of everything by yourself. Yeah. You got to partner with others, and exactly what you're talking about, like the edge technology. That's why we call our product the ResonX. We trademarked that because where we wanted to be is everything's enabled by ResonX technology. You're gonna get something that says powered by ResonX. It could be another product. It could be another company. No problem. Love to work with other companies. Love to collaborate. People have innovative ideas and they understand their verticals. Like, for example, there's a bunch of great gaming companies. They understand their space. They understand distribution. They understand what the consumers want. Cool. Let's partner with them. Let's make gaming chairs. Let's make other things. But it's going to be powered by ResonX technology. And as a consumer what to expect when you get something that's ResonX enabled. It's the highest pedigree of what we can provide. Right. That's what we care about internally.
Yeah.
No, totally. That's exactly where I see it. I see it as being like a layer, as a technology or software being added to a bunch of different companies. Yeah. I think that's the best way to scale it, because it's like, and also just when I say scale, I mean in every way, whether it's the technology or also the branding, having that everywhere so everybody starts asking for it. So there's some demand. So when you know Dolby Digital, Harman Kardon, you know what I mean? But they're just speakers, right? But when you know they have a certain sound or a certain type of technology, when you see that branding on there, you get a BMW, if it says Harman Kardon, I trust the speakers. If it doesn't say that shit, I'm not buying it.
I don't see the badge in there, I don't know what I'm going to expect.
I just know what I can expect from Harman Kardon. I mean, I was actually surprised when I drove a Tesla that the sound sounded very similar. Not sure what they're using inside there, but I was surprised. It sounded really close to
white labeled JBL.
Really? Is that what it is?
Perhaps. We don't
Perhaps. I mean, there's been documentation out there. Actually, nobody's been able to verify this, but the only thing that has been able to be out there is that they've been able to recognize it down to JBL, and then somehow Tesla was able to potentially get a white label deal to get JBL directly in there. But that's
There's
not
a rumor.
Yeah,
right?
there's a rumor, but that
and
when it comes to
possible
audio
rumors.
quality, you listen to a nice JBL and you listen to what you get in a Tesla, you're gonna get pretty much the same thing. So it's interesting on that end. But if they were able to pull off getting the name scrubbed off and just having the speakers in there, good for Tesla. I mean, that means that they're one of the only auto brands that are just kind of pure when it comes to audio, and they can build their own in the future, and they can cross over whenever they want, and they're not going to have to get tied to that brand association. So that's why EV companies that are doing that right now, I think it's smart because it doesn't hold you to anything. Because Bose and Harman own all automotive, and they usually have a tier 1 agreement with all the automotive companies. So it's interesting to see that automotive companies in the EV space are now starting to get away from that slightly, because I think they want to have a little bit more flexibility into what experiences they provide, because they're the touch point to the consumer.
It also opens the opportunity to have their Sonic brand part of it, because that's becoming a stronger thing where like you said, when the social media thing pops in, you know what it is, you know what to expect, you know what you're going to be with your little shot of dopamine, right? So that's going to, I think, open up the opportunity for a lot of different brands to be able to have this kind of sonic signature with it. So that way you can associate yourself and the experience you're going to have with it a certain way, So that's what the Tesla sounds like. That's what the BMW sounds like. That's what, and not just for the sound system, but also the car itself.
Yeah.
And how it feels and how you experience it.
Yeah. Ferrari just did a deal, well, not a deal, but they just announced that they have a proprietary mechanism of creating the Ferrari sound in their new EV Ferraris, which I found both great, but also kind of funny, because obviously EV, you don't have anything, and that's okay. But Ferrari has their signature. Their signature is what the sound of the engine is like. There's obviously a lot of controversy if that's a good or the right or wrong approach, but they're leveraging vibrational technologies to create that rumbling sound within the car. So they're kind of showing how the evolution of where we're going with this technology. Companies are looking into that space because they want to understand, how do you make that signature touch like Ethan was talking about, where you know what a Ferrari is supposed to be, but if you get an EV Ferrari, you're not going to get that anymore. So what does that now become? Are you losing that touch point of you as a brand, or are you okay with it and you evolve? That's up to them to decide, but it seems like they're on the side of that is their signature, which is that engine noise, which you can't get out of an EV vehicle. So they wanted to be able to bring it back, and that's what they just recently announced.
Yeah, I think like the sound thing has been a big thing for a lot of muscle heads, if that's what you want to call them. The people who drive these big muscle cars, they want to hear that. This is a car, bro.
Now, is it the sound that they like, or is it the feeling that they get from it?
I think it might be this actual feeling. I think it makes them feel. Yeah. Like they feel like a man. They have they get that Andrew Tate energy going on.
They need a little
Bugatti. You got your Bugatti, and you got this core. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
I feel like I did in like high school when I started DJing. I feel like there was I found, I think, some article, and I might be completely out paraphrasing this, but essentially like there was a primal response to certain genres of music because of the frequencies that were found in that genre. Like hip hop and EDM and stuff that had like a lot of bass heavy music attracted more, let's say, perhaps primal urges of people to be associated at those concerts and stuff like that, and it caused people to be excited more than at like it's easy going concert. What's it called? Like easy listening or like jazz or something.
Good old jazz. Good old R&B jazz.
And of course there might be like certain type of population that goes with there as well, but there's also like there's some sort of element that there's a physical response to having those vibrations at that level in your body that you're exposed to, that causes your body to react to it. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what the muscle guys are looking for. Looking for that little bass vibration.
I mean, I agree that probably is what it is. I mean, it is about sound. I mean, sound has a big play on it. I mean, obviously they're saying they're listening for their sound. They're not really looking for the power, because you can get it with these electrical vehicles now. Yeah. Right. So it's totally, 100% I believe exactly what you're saying. I think it is definitely the sound. But one thing you also mentioned too, you mentioned that, your wife, how she kind of, pushed you into, giving her these pointers, for example, like, hey, this would be great if Avatar had this and this. I mean, you kind of knew this a little bit, but she just also talked about it. Sometimes there's like this like hidden thing sometimes that women say that can totally change, your career in some ways. And what I mean by this, if you look at like Instagram founder, Kevin, is it Kevin? No, that's not Kevin. Is it Kevin Spiegel? No, it's Kevin Syndrome, right? So we look at Kevin Syndrome when he started doing Instagram. Well, before that, it was what was it? It was called Bourbon. When he first did Bourbon,
really? Oh man,
yeah, it was Bourbon first. That was the predecessor to Instagram. It was Bourbon. And he also used to work at early stage Twitter, right? Before it was Twitter, he used to work at that company too. And he also got asked by Mark Zuckerberg to join Facebook early on, but he declined. Yeah, right. He missed like a bunch of golden nuggets, right? He was destined to be rich, like he was destined to be a billionaire. Like, how do you dodge $2 billion companies and still be like a billionaire? It's like, get out of here. What kind of fucking luck do we have?
Damn.
We don't get that luck, dude. What the fuck? You get $1 billion. I mean, even Zuckerberg himself says, he doesn't even want to sell Facebook because he doesn't think he has another idea as good as this. And you've got fucking Kevin Syndrome like, nah. I don't really need Facebook. Nah.
It's like the most extreme version of $1 billion chicken.
Yeah. But yeah,
Frogger. That's the one.
But yeah, I mean, I'm saying, like, for example, when Kevin Syndrome, to give more context to it, when he was, he was frustrated with Bourbon of how to get critical mass, and he was just like, how the fuck do I get critical mass? He took a little, trip with his girlfriend or wife or whatever. I think she's his wife now. I'm not sure where she was then, but a relationship. And they took a little trip because he wanted to think about like, hey, what should I do next? Because this is not working. And she said, like, you know what, like, maybe we should make these photos look better because, like, you see, like, this other app, it just makes the app, like, these photos better. So maybe you should make the photos better. And he had the ha-ha, ha-ha.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's usually the critical mass. Because, I mean, think about it, right? The wife test is always the big thing also for most home audio purchases. It has to meet the wife test. Does my wife like it? So that we can bring this, $100,000 thing into it. Does my wife like the photos that get posted up here? Does my wife like it? It's a perfect thing because they're not someone who's completely detached, but they're also somebody who is smart in their own right, but at the same time not 100% as invested as you. So it's the fresh perspective with context. I see that.
Yeah, I mean, and not even just that. Maybe they might just be like more critical. Maybe they might be more critical
Have you been talking to my wife? Come on, hey, honey, come on. I thought we were gonna separate. Sorry.
I mean, they might be like, Ethan, I don't know about this thing, but
yo, for real. Okay, early prototypes. We've been 3D printing them the whole time, and early back in the day when we were first putting them together, and we're still figuring out like what to put it together with. We were not using perhaps the strongest adhesive to be able to keep them together. So there were the case that sometimes the components would fall out a little bit. And this is like 2 years ago, solid, right? She just never let me live it down of like, you didn't use the right glue. I was like, there's more to it than that. She's like, yeah, but you didn't use the right glue. I was like, okay, you know what? Fine. Let me do a test. So I actually sat there and like I did a test of like 15 different glues and different adhesives just to prove it to her that it wasn't the adhesive that was the problem there. It was something else, right? Something else, the vibration of the drivers or the compression of it. Turns out it was the fucking glue. And so that's why we've switched to like this kind of like super set of like silicone adhesive or whatever that we use now and everything. And this is something that's been used in like, caulking of bathrooms and homes forever. And I was like, oh, should have listened to the wife and used a different glue. She still doesn't let me live it down, even though nothing has fallen apart since then.
I mean, hey, look, I mean, there was Nikola Tesla. He had the pigeons. Those were his wives, so, I mean, it works out, sometimes you need
the wife test.
You gotta ask a significant other, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so I guess what's next for you guys when you're doing this? Like what's the next step? Like who are some? Because I also didn't, you guys didn't tell me like who are some of the partners and investors. I don't know what you can say, but who are some of the partners or investors that you're working with right now, and who would you kind of like to work with?
Yeah. So let's see what I can disclose. What I can disclose is we're currently working on making a deal with a league in sports and hopefully being able to introduce this technology within that. So expanding on what we already did with the Minnesota Twins in Major League Baseball, we're trying to expand into a couple other sports. So there's a couple other partners there in different sports categories that we're trying to really fine tune that out. Can't disclose that yet because it's not 100% public, but what I can say is that within the next 6 months, people will know. And I cannot wait to announce that because it's a great partnership. that we're looking for there. When it comes to recording studio side, we're at a couple different recording studios. Main thing for us is we're looking and working with some of the top studios for some of the most iconic music of our generation. That's all I can disclose there, unfortunately. And then when it comes to the hospitality world, same thing there. It's a very iconic brand when it comes to the entertainment world. Sucks because I cannot say any of those things. But what I can definitely say, though, is when it comes to the investors we actually have fantastic investors, not only from our local area. We have a couple angels from Riverside where we're from. We also have some investors from Irvine, which is very close to where we're at. So a lot of local investors that have believed in us, believed in our crazy vision. That it's been amazing to see their support. We also have investors, fantastic investors from Central Valley, because Ethan's originally from Fresno. And it's amazing to see support as well from kind of his upbringing and be able to give back.
Giving it back to where he came from.
Exactly. And
Fresno, no doubt. Yeah. Shout out to No Doubt, Gwen Stefani, Tony Canal. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, people don't believe that. Audrey McDonald, Hey, listen, man, Fresno's got talent, And
then we got some fantastic investors when it comes to kind of the metaverse space, and then we also have some great investors when it comes to the sports tech space. So we kind of have been building this bridge, and we also have been building great advisors from people that have worked at some of the top audio companies in the world. So it's amazing to get all this support, these investors on that level, and then the partnerships. We're finally at the point where we can start getting our name out there, and people are going to actually know who we are. We've kind of been in the dark, kind of building. But now we're finally at the point where it's no more building. Let's execute. Let's get this out there. And the market is the ultimate test, right? We can build whatever we want to build, but if the market doesn't accept it, you got to keep building more. And you got to get it out there, though, because if you keep building forever, you're always going to build for perfection. That doesn't matter. You always got to get it out there as soon as possible. I know he hates this part, but this is the reality. When you build a product, you got to get it out there, get it tested, get feedback, and then keep putting it out there. Don't be scared of like it not being perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect. The market will help define that over time.
Yeah, I think it's really a big thing where it's like, getting out there to the right brands and the right companies and partnering with them and the right investors, strategic investors and strategic partners. I mean, obviously, you work with some great partners right now, but there's always other people that can also help push it to the curb. Right. And like what I see is like, there's big opportunities with companies like BMW, the main people, that you see out there, the big heads, that would cause mass adoption in some way, or at least mass adoption in your pockets. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like who would want to work with? I mean, everybody basically of trying to say, if anyone's got a crazy idea of like, hey, why don't we try this? That might fundamentally change the way you right? Drive a car, experience a movie, play a video game, see a concert, fishing. I don't know. Maybe the ultimate way to change how you fish in the water. Who knows? There might be some crazy.
Not getting approved.
But these types of people that are thinking differently of like, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. These are the interviews.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of put on that, the partners we're really right now looking at and meeting with are the people that have introduced new technology into industries like markets before people are even considering, or they're willing to take a risk on a new technology and push into market. Especially like in the gaming industry, right? Like there's only a handful of top, console wise. I mean, you really only have Nintendo, you have Sony, PlayStation, and then you have Microsoft, right? Like there's only three. Well, what I care about is which one of them is the mover, which one actually wants to push that angle, wants to work with us and create that next generation, and which one wants to follow along. The ones that want to follow along, cool. We'll put them on the back burner because they're not the ones who are willing to take that risk and really reinvent how you engage with video games. We want to look at those that are actually saying, okay, this is what the video game experience is going to be like for the next 20, 30 decades. Not just, this is the main thing, or not 20, 30, like 2 to 3 decades, like 20, 30 years, right?
Right. And I think that's where you need like a real strategic investor involved, who really understands that and also has the partnerships to do that. I'm talking about guys like Mark Andreessen. I'm talking about, YC, those type of people like that, Paul Graham, those guys like that. Those are the kind of people I feel like would push something like this, or even going straight up to Zuck, hitting up one of his sisters, hitting up one of the sisters and be like, hey, look, we got this technology. You know what I'm saying? One of his sisters works for Klein and Perkins. So that's one of Ariel Zuckerberg. So she works for them too as well. And then he's got another sister named Randy. But, hey, I mean, sometimes you might have to just, go out there and try to hack your resources and think about who would actually be able to leverage this technology and take it to the next to the next step and actually push it and leverage and put yourself in a position where you can actually start experimenting and creating mass or critical mass in adoption of this product. Because I definitely can see it in movies. So when it comes to movie theaters, I see it in that. I definitely see something where Dolby Digital is. I definitely see something opportunity for the metaverse. See something huge right there is leveraging yourself there. I definitely see it as for vehicles. So when we're talking about transportation, I definitely see it something like this even selling in Best Buy. You know, when you're seeing a display where it's like, hey, look, you know, hey, check it out. This is, you know, Ed Sound, you know, turn your environment to sound or whatever it may be, right? And then you have like this demo and people are just sitting down and like, hey, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just like, what is this, dude? You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to it, and I think we're fortunate to be in a space and with the opportunity that we have in front of us. That's, you know, something that can be broken down to such a, you know, minute building block of it. You know, and we start getting into stuff like the reality pixel. If I get my way, and it gives me some time in the lab a little bit longer, you know. And I guess you're right, with the right investor who does see that as a potential future. You know, this is definitely a huge step towards that, at least.
Yeah, I definitely see it as something to where it's about the right investor and the right partnership to close, and then using that to leverage yourself into other doors. I see that as the biggest thing, because what you guys have is an awesome idea. I mean, it's not even an idea. It's an awesome technology. It's an awesome way to come into, you know, the sound space and disrupt it. But it's all about the branding and who you network with strategically is what's going to get you to that next stop. And how you brand that, how you think about trade, you know, like your slogan and like even something like a demo, like movie, or like not a movie, more like a short demo commercial.
A proper magic trick. Every
a little one just
magic trick.
Yeah, I mean, like the intro and knowing who you're trying to target, but then even just just like this unique like little commercial where it's like, you know, that you kind of popped up and like there's a kid and says, hey, you know, oh man, I can't bring my sound system here. Oh fuck, you know, I can't play the game. He's like, nah, check this out. You know, exactly.
Slams it on the table. The table becomes this like epic thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the kid's just like, what?
What? That was like my second demo to him.
Yeah, maybe he drops the ice cream. He's like, what? You know.
All right, I like that. Yeah, we can just copy that down.
I want that.
Let's make it.
There we go. What is that? I'm just saying, like something like that, just gonna grab somebody's attention really fast to understand what you guys are doing and that it's different.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Something that's going to make you stand out fast and they get the idea immediately. It's your elevator pitch, but on a visual platform, right? Yeah, so they can see the vision of the brand. Because I think that's the biggest thing is like letting people or getting people excited about the vision of the brand and understanding that you understand the vision. And sometimes that is just a little small commercial that you put up and it's just really quick and it just explains, hey, I don't got my speaker here, dude. Like, what the hell? Like, you know, or like a little kid just doing it. And it's like, oh, just use this.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, Tommy. Yeah. This is amazing.
Damn, Tommy, added back again with that nice speaker system as a
Yeah, it just is like, you know, I'm just saying, like, because even when I was like a kid, like I remember, like, you know, I was thinking about things like, you know, I was working on things like game systems and how they could work like in DVD players and stuff like that, and how I can make it portable and turn a game system into that and bring it on the, you know, on my bus and you know, and people were just like,
read the battery.
Yeah. I mean, I had like a little battery and I had like a fucking, I built like this little thing to hook inside the little game system and turn it into a TV. And I'm watching a movie. I was like, hey dude, look, a movie in your rucksack. You know, and it was before it was like cool, like before you had the iPod, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like, people were like, okay, and it just turned around. Everybody went playing on the bus. But then I was like, what the fuck? I was like,
you know what? I feel like we have that thing in common.
Well,
thank you for fighting the good fight.
Well, you know what? You know what I had to do to get that attention? I realized that my branding sucked. It was my branding that sucked, right? It was my branding that sucked. And I was like, my execution sucks. My branding sucks. So you know what I did? I thought about it. I went home that day. I said, I'm going to make people fucking excited what I just did. This nerdy shit that I just did took me days. And I don't know anybody who's doing this. Who's turning a video game portable player into a fucking TV that you can watch movies on? Fuck them. Nobody. So I was like, they're going to pay attention to me. So what I did is I was like, I've got to think of a better way to get their immediate attention. What's going to get my audience attention? So this is not something I wanted to do. I just wanted to show them that I could watch movies. So I was like, but what would get their eyeballs rolling?
Yeah.
So I fucking grabbed a porno from one of my buddies, and I grabbed a porno. I brought it on the bus. I put it in there. I pushed play, and everyone was like, dude. Everyone was jumping over the bus saying, dude, look at this guy, this part. How did you do that? It it was amazing now. Everybody's attention. So it's just...
I knew it would come back to that.
It's called growth hacking. I like it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's smart. Yeah, you gotta get eyes on it.
It's just like the execution. Now, maybe I could have did something else. But,
Possibly.
but I needed to do some type of guerrilla marketing or hacking that was short term and fast. I didn't have a budget. I didn't know how to cut or record video then, So I was like, what can I do to get these people's attention? They're not paying attention to my beautiful freaking fucking, experiment. I just showed them this shit, dude. You can't do that.
If it was like an engineering show, like how it's made, I would have been there. Like, dude, how did you get this? How it's made on
It's
here,
a
man?
very
That's
small amount
awesome.
of people that think like you, my friend.
Exactly, and it wouldn't have hit critical mass.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have got the massive. Like you have to hit. It just taught me a valuable lesson. You have to hit that larger audience within those pockets, and you got to hit them fast. Do you know what? Their attention span is slow.
So did you get expelled?
I didn't get expelled.
Suspended?
I didn't get shit.
Nothing?
Nada.
What? That's amazing.
Yeah, nobody knew about it. Everybody kept it very secret.
Yeah, what
they,
are they gonna say? Like, oh, he had this device on the thing. They're like, yeah, sure, of course, Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. What is this? Oh, all right, he has it in his book bag. Yeah, right. See, because it didn't make sense then, because nobody has shit like that. So it's he has it. He is it in his fucking backpack. Like, come on, bro. Yeah, okay. What do you have in your backpack? And
so you know the struggle.
Yeah, all I would have had to do was unplug it. They wouldn't know what I had in there. It was like, what is this? They might have thought it was a bomb.
Console.
Oh my god, Al Qaeda!
TSA, we're not involved in this, and I'd like to say, I'd like to keep my pre-check status to make sure that we continue moving smoothly through an airport.
He loves his pre-check.
Left you in the dust.
Yeah, but you guys get my point though. But
Big time.
I mean, it's all about the branding, and for me, I visualize what you guys doing as something huge. But it's also about taking the opportunity and lining yourself with the right strategic investors, and even sometimes the right strategic legal team. Because sometimes your legal team, can also help you when it comes to raising capital and getting those other people in line. Like if you look at, I'm not going to mention any names, but if you look at a lot of the companies like Instagram, Facebook, and I'll say Instagram and Facebook, for example, they had the same exact investment firm. So when it came down to selling it, the investment firm already had equity in it. Yep. So, of course, they want to sell it to another company that they already are, a part of. So they're going to get their money automatically. So it's like a double whammy for them. So, of course, they want to sell Instagram to Mark.
Yeah.
And they'll make sure the deal's good because they're going to get a cut of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of incentive there.
Yeah. So it's like
aligned interest, always aligned interest.
Yeah, but it just shows like how strategic things are when you go deep down in the system. There's a lot of strategic moves that go on. Even when you start thinking about guys like Elon Musk to Zuckerberg, the PayPal mafia and things like that. There's a bunch of like secret little connections and network effects that people don't realize that they're doing, and they're doing things in a leverageable way in order to hit critical mass. It's just not, I have a great product. Oh, this is going to change the world. Right. It's like, who did you tell and who did you partner with to change the fucking world?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, I would say that plain and simple, like I definitely can see what you guys are doing is something that's huge and groundbreaking, but it's just like, how are you going to execute it? That is the biggest thing. It's not always about the thing you invent. It's how you execute it. Look at Tesla, Nikola Tesla.
Yep. Oh, I know.
And then look at Elon Musk.
What a poor soul.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Who had the better branding of his own name?
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Edison's sitting back with his, kicking his feet up in the air, like, hey, we did it.
Definitely taking lessons and learning and make sure we, learn from history and make sure that we research 10 times and execute once. So it's the right way, or at least the best way we can possibly think of.
Yeah. Easy sauce. But yeah, man, it's been great having you guys on. Is there some things that you might want to tell the audience, out there about your technology or any, potential partners that might be watching this or hearing this or listening to the show?
Yeah. I would say that probably the biggest thing for us is we're super excited about starting to roll this out more and more in venues, kind of what I was saying. Super excited about disclosing some of the partners we're currently working with, but I think the biggest thing is we're ongoingly looking for new partners that want to make those groundbreaking things, as we're talking about, strategically aligning with the right investors, the right partners, really getting this going in the right verticals. But the biggest thing for us is also on the research front, as we keep building this company, we're also looking for the top researchers in the different spaces that we're building out, because the idea, the inception of it amplifies with brilliant minds. We've kind of learned that as we've been building this out, is we have brilliant minds on things like Unreal Engine, building out virtual reality stuff. We have brilliant minds on other areas that have tangents to what we're doing, and we're doing code development with them, because the future to build requires an army of people to build that, and we want to find the right talent to do so. But the last thing I kind of want to bring up when it comes to that is definitely follow our journey on our socials, specifically focus on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Edgesound Research is on all of them. It's just Edgesound Research on all of them. But the reason why I say follow our journey is because we're really raw about what we do. We are very open about what we do. We post a lot about behind the scenes and what we're kind of building out. And all these announcements I'm talking about, we're going to be disclosing hopefully here in the next couple weeks or so to the next couple months. But socials is kind of the way you can follow our journey and kind of see where we're taking this. And
also see where something's at, because this is going to come to a venue possibly near you, and give it a shot. Tell us what it is, and tell us what to do differently. We can only do what we know and what we're getting feedback from, right? And so if people are like, yeah, this is great, but this shit sucks. Okay, great. Then we can do something with that. We can change it and actually make it something that y'all like. So help us make it better.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you see this big change in the world of technology. You see things like Chat GPT and things like that, and everybody's like, oh my God, they're here to take our jobs. I'm like, dude, no way. There's so much more shit that AI can be used to leverage and disrupt that you guys are not even paying attention. Even right now, I'm using this ATM Mini Pro ISO, and it's like, I'm still cutting right here live. I'm going 1, 2, and you got guys like what's his name, Rogan, who are he has young Jamie. Do we need fucking young Jamie? No disrespect to young Jamie. Shout outs to young Jamie, dude, dropping plates to young Jamie. But you know what I mean? Do we need young Jamie? We can replace young Jamie with AI, because literally, if I'm just pressing 1 and 2. Like literally,
and it's only when someone's talking, then you can kind of easily find those characteristics and find those patterns. And then,
for podcasting, this is something that should be easy. It's just 1 and 2. Whoever speaks, make the AI pick up and change the camera to it. It should just be simple. This is not a hard problem to solve, but you wouldn't realize how big the problem. Exactly that too. But the problem is so huge, because there's so many podcasters, that are coming out, and it's way over $1 billion industry, and it's like, just this could be wipe out a whole bunch of editors, a whole bunch of people just hitting up stuff because they're using it for their podcast.
Yep.
There's always going to be a need for editors, but when it comes to podcasting editing, you don't need an editor to do that. When you can have AI to just go, oh, when Val speaks, the camera goes to you.
Or he's saying something interesting, relevant to the conversation. It's probably better that we show a presence of him and have this audio.
I mean, you can make it more complex, but I think just a simple version of it that will make everyone happy is be voice automated to the person. Follow the voice.
Yeah, and it helps you be creative. Then you can start making creative decisions about it instead of having to be bogged down in all the mechanisms. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the big, huge advantages of AI, and that's a whole separate conversation for another time. It is. But yeah, it's coming for your jobs, because those are the jobs that have to exist today, because that's how we have to do things. But if, there's a whole new set of jobs that opens up, because it now enables a whole new set of skills that are needed.
Treat it like a tool, not a replacement.
Exactly.
That's the way I perceive it.
Correct. I definitely agree with that. That is definitely something there. You definitely got to do that. It's not going to replace jobs, so you guys are totally there. But thanks for coming on the show. I know you guys got to get to your next meeting, have your dinner. You guys flew out here, so thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us. Yeah,
awesome. Stop. Cha-ching.
Perfect. Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kids in the Room Podcast!
That's right.
Brought to you by Move Faces TV. Let's go!